We're really here in the most simple language to present and explain a grant-funded technical systems project that may be very, very beneficial to grow your company. What is KIEP? Difficult name. K, you will understand, stands for Kenya, but what is it really? It is the Kenya Industry and Entrepreneurship Project. What it doesn't say on this slide is that KIEP has been many years in the making, at least 3 or 4 years, as a collaborative effort between the government of Kenya and the World Bank. So our focus is on 250 fast-growing SMEs that we are going to mobilize, select, shortlist over the next 3-4 years. And if we then look at the eligibility criteria, what do you need to meet as an SME in order to be included into the KIEP program? Then first of all, it is size. Size is one of the most important sort of cutoff points for us. And now you understand what I mean when I say, all right, we focus on the larger companies, 50 million shilling in annual revenues, $500,000. Internationally, that is sort of the benchmark, but for Kenya, this is a rather large number. Now, there are a few more criteria, but I will come to the most important one. The next 3 are sort of pretty telling. We do not deal with startups in this part of the program, so you need to have a certain age, which you will have if you meet those sales targets. Audited financial statements, be fully compliant, be fully tax compliant, be fully regulatory compliant. And the 4th point is also important, committed management. What do we mean with committed management? A management that is willing to enter into a performance improvement plan and then also do what it takes to see through what we are going to offer in terms of technical assistance and make the changes that management itself has signed off on. And then the last one is very important. This is not necessarily a program that we want to advertise in the newspaper. We really want to work with the ecosystem of SMEs. We want to sort of take into account your partners. So we are going to ask you to be nominated by a strategic partner. Now, strategic partners come in within the context of this program. They come in 3 flavors. They could either be financial institutions like banks, private equity investors, or finance companies. So KCB today here is very much a strategic partner. And what does the word nomination mean? Nomination is a different word for we want you to obtain a strong reference from, in this case, KCB. Not initially when you apply, but later on in the process when we start shortlisting. We want to be able to go back to KCB and say, do you really vouch for this company? And even much later on, once we start engaging together in terms of technical assistance, in a very transparent manner, we would also invite KCB to say, well, what do you think should happen with company XYZ? Where do you think they can improve? And often banks have very good ideas on what you as clients could actually focus on or strengthen. When we select companies to be included into the program, we have a special focus, obviously, on where we can play a role in terms of market linkages. That is one of our primary objectives. And market linkages are not just linking suppliers to off-takers, large off-takers in Kenya or internationally, but we also see market linkages of helping you to link to sources of finance, to potential that. Companies that are engaged in import substitution. When we get to the top of the pyramid, those are the companies that could actually compete with, let's call a spade. The Chinas of this world who make almost everything you can think of, but there are many things nowadays that we could actually make very well in Kenya. So we're very interested in companies that could play a role in that sense. Companies that have export potential, obviously, I don't have to explain that. We have a vibrant export sector, primarily sort of focused on produce, on horticulture, on fruits. There's a lot more we can do in that area. We're barely scratching the surface. So that's the kind of companies we like as well. In terms of priority sectors, there's no surprise here. I mean, we are a government program, so we are very much focused on the government Big Four agenda, which go by different words. I'm aware of that, but these are the 4 sectors that we really focus on. manufacturing, healthcare, sometimes called nowadays universal health cover, food security, and affordable housing. If you are an SME and you do not work in those 4 sectors, you can still apply. And finally, as a government and as a World Bank program, we have a focus on the women lens dimension. So 20% of the SMEs that we're going to take in are either owned by women or led by women. So 50 companies will be either owned or led by women, and we're going to far surpass that criteria, notwithstanding the steep eligibility criteria. Women meet those criteria. They can do as well and often better than men. So we're very positive about that particular item. This time around, we're probably not going to take in 40 SMEs. It's more likely that we will take in 75 and perhaps even 80 SMEs. So everybody who would, in principle, be eligible, not all of you will make it to the finishing line. But this is not a lottery where there's only one jackpot. You will have a reasonable chance to be admitted, if not in this cohort, then in the next cohort. So the call for applications is going to start, we were going to say next week. It might be delayed by just 2 or 3 more days, but before the end of June, in almost all certainty, we're going to launch our call, and through KCB, we're going to make you aware that you don't miss that news, that you can now apply. Now, the call for applications is, of course, the starting point of the whole thing. The whole application process is online. It works through a program called SmartMe, which is accessible through the internet, through your PC, through mobile phone, through iPad, through whatever. But the important thing is everything that we do is in a fully transparent manner done online. Why apply? Grant funding. Making change affordable. Guys, this is what you've always wanted, and now you have it. Access to top-notch consultants. Become part of the KIEP 250 plus ecosystem that we're building. Companies from diverse sectors, diverse sizes, diverse backgrounds are going to become part of what we foresee as a vibrant community where through social media you interact together and you get exposed to sort of business development solution providers. And finally, then the call that is almost certainly going to open either on the 28th or shortly afterwards. The question we often get is, are funds that we as an SME would receive under KIEP 250 plus, how does it work? Are they repayable? What are the conditions?
The grants that are availed via KIEP 250 plus are not repayable, but what we do insist on is you have to meet the milestones that the grants are funding. So whereas you might not be requested to, or it is not part of the program for you to pay the money back, you will have to meet the milestones that each of those grants are funding, because the way the funding is disbursed is on a milestone basis. The reason we insist on this is, as you very well understand, this is a facility that is meant to improve SMEs, and we want to ensure that we stretch the dollars that are available to each SME to the very best extent possible. So that is why we insist on the milestone disbursement. Thank you. Back to you, Martin.
Angela, the next question to you. And the question is, why do you focus on large companies? I mean, they have already made it. Surely it's the smaller companies that need help.
Yeah, thank you, Martin, for that question. And we get asked this a lot in consideration of the eligibility criteria for this program, which is the 50 million revenues as the 50 million Kenya shillings in revenues as the minimum threshold, and the maximum is $1 billion. So we are focusing on these companies, mid-sized companies, and the idea here is to help them unlock a different level of growth that will then transform them into even bigger companies that can have a bigger impact on the society. And when we look at the ecosystem as well, the enterprise development ecosystem has a lot of programs that are focusing on companies that are in the early stages. That's startups that are early post-revenue, or businesses that are still post-revenue but are still quite young and are probably in their first 5 years of operations. So the idea behind this program was to add some additionality as opposed to repeating the initiatives that are already existing. And within the wider KIEP program, there is a component specifically that is addressing startups as well.
You mentioned 4 priority sectors. Now I'm working in education or tourism or logistics. Can my company apply?
So as per Martin's presentation earlier, you do note that we are focusing or mirroring the big 4 sectors of the government that the government is currently focusing on. So we are talking about universal healthcare, we're talking about manufacturing, we're talking about food security, which is really about agricultural sector, and then we're talking about affordable housing, which really encompasses real estate and construction. So while our key priorities in these sectors, the thing to understand is you could be within the value chain of these priority sectors. I think so, for example, if you provide software that agricultural farms will use to ensure that they are able to do better with regards to their farming, you can't say that you fall within the agriculture value chain. So whereas we might not necessarily say that we are going to list all those other sectors, as much as a priority is given to these 4 sectors that I have mentioned, we encourage everyone to apply. But when it comes to how we analyze and we score, we will give higher scoring to the companies that can show a nexus or a connection with those 4 sectors that we have spoken about.
Now, a question we often get, almost always, is what can I use your grants for? And we think we have made really clear that this is really funds to be used for addressing business improvement areas. Nevertheless, Angela, can you touch on question 4 once again? Do we actually provide working capital, or is there a window for some capex financing under the grant funding?
So the KIEP 250 Plus is providing grant-funded technical assistance, and as Martin has taken you through the presentations, is that there would be a whole diagnosis process to help identify which priority interventions can be covered within the available budget that is available, which is an average of 50,000 USD, which equates to just around Kenya shillings 5 million for each particular company. And the idea here is for these medium-sized enterprises, they are growing, and what we are trying to support is help them in terms of bringing in some expertise into the business that will really drive an increase either in productivity or drive some increase in competitiveness. So that said, the grant-funded technical assistance does not cover working capital. Remember, it is grant-funded technical assistance, so it is not supposed to be contributing to your working capital in terms of trying to pay your suppliers or pay your staff or those sorts of payments. And the question on whether it can also cover capital expenditure, here the guidance is that the capital expenditure would need to be related to the area of or intervention that has been identified to be covered as part of the technical assistance.
Diana, nominations. often not completely understood how that works. Could you try to explain it one more time?
So this program is not a program where we are just offering support for the sake of the support. The idea here is we want to be able to get input in terms of what would make your business better and improve management, innovation, and technological aspects. So why do you need a nominating partner? As we explained, nominating partners are either your financiers, or it could be a company where you're providing or supplying goods or services. They have worked with you, and through that working with you, they've noted that probably there are certain areas that you'd want to improve on, or certain areas that if you addressed, they'd be able to ask you to provide more goods and services, or maybe things that they think if you just address 1, 2, or 3, you'll be able to grow as a company. So the reason we ask you to have a nominating partner is because we want someone who you have a relationship with and who will be able to come and say, I know this SME, we've worked with them, and I'm also able to give an idea or two in terms of how we think we can improve this. So nomination is really a simple process. It's not something where someone has to write a very complex letter or send, so all you need to do is talk to either your business association, talk either to your bank like KCB in this particular case, let them know that you want to participate in the program, or even talk to a firm that you are a supplier or producer for, and they will basically say they're happy to nominate you. So in the form, there's a section where all we require you to do is put in the name, put in the email, put in the number, so that should you be shortlisted, we will be coming back to this person and saying, hey, say for example, with Superior Mwitha, thank you, you nominated this person, they've been shortlisted, and we want to get your input in terms of how we can help this company become much better.
The next question is also very important, and I will ask Simon, as the grants manager, to explain that own contribution in a little bit more detail than I did. Simon.
Yeah, thanks, Martin. As explained during the presentation by Martin, you are required to provide 30% of the project's total cost. So the KIEP 250 plus project will provide 70 in terms of a grant, which is not repayable, that has been explained. On your part, you'll be expected to provide 30% of the total cost, and the 30% can be in cash or in kind. In cash, of course, is the cash injection that you may bring in form of maybe additional equity or even a loan from a financial institution. But we will also consider in-kind assets or contribution, and especially during these times of COVID-19, where a number of businesses are cash-strapped. In terms of in-kind assets, these are the assets that are relevant to the technical assistance that will be provided. We've taken us through the diagnosis. After the diagnosis, we have the technical assistance or the gaps that will be identified. So the assets that you'll provide for the gaps to be addressed will be considered as your in-kind contribution.